and God bless. So I had a dream, and basically in the dream, so I'm gonna explain the setting first. So what it was the world was at war, yes, but there were certain areas in the world that looked like it was peace, but it wasn't. And so basically what was going on was there were different facilities around the world. So sort of like a FEMA. It didn't say FEMA, but I'm just saying that because that's just sort of what it was like a different facility that was supposed to be a shelter for people. Some of them took an entire family, and then some of them only took kids. And so basically there was this one family that I was able to really see, and my whole point of view of this was more of like a third person point of view. So I was just like watching everything. And so the family that I was really focused on, there was a son, and he was like in his late teens, probably like 16, 17 years old. And then I know he had like a mom, and I think the mom had another kid with her, but I can't remember. But his family and him, they were separated. So he was at a facility that only took kids, and he knew that his family was at a different facility that took an entire family, and his family was trying to get to him. And I don't know if they were trying to get to him to be with him or get to him and get him out of that facility. So that wasn't entirely brought out to me that I can remember. But basically what happened was the dream was focused on the boy, and they had some sort of like news, like TV they could watch, and they can watch the news, and they saw that this facility that his family was at had just got attacked. So it was blown up completely. It looked like bombs went off, like the entire building was just like destroyed. And in the facility that he was at, he was the only one that was a actual Christian, and he was the only one that was going around trying to encourage everyone. And then he sees this on the TV, and everyone like looked at him like they just really thought like he's about to like lose his mind, because they knew that his family was there. Now I knew from my point of view that his family actually got out before it happened, and they were still on their way to go get him, but he did not know that. And so he still kept hope alive. He still went around still encouraging other people. And there was a girl there who, it was like she was on her last straw, like she was going to break at any moment. And that's when I really noticed that the other kids here, they didn't have Christ. He was the only Christian, and there were like nurses around, and they were all male, and they were like giving the kids like certain medicines and stuff like that. And I can't remember if the boy who was a Christian took it or not, but I don't recall seeing him do that. But all of the male nurses were wearing red. And so the girl, who she was sitting down, and she saw the news, she saw that his family most likely just got blown up, because that's what they all believe. Okay, they didn't know that his family left. And so she's sitting there, and you could sense it. And that's important, I'll explain that later, but you could really sense it. It was like she was radiating how she could feel, and everybody turned and looked at her. And that's when I had a knowing that she used to be on drugs, she used to be suicidal and all that stuff. So she looks at the boy and she says, if you lose it, I'm going to, I think she said she was either going to kill herself, go back to drugs, she was going to do something bad to herself. And I can't remember if she actually said a cuss word or not. I don't believe I was able to hear that part, but it really just showcased how these kids they didn't have God, and that's pretty much how it was. I don't want to say that they were like extremely evil, but they were just like teenagers who didn't have God. You know, they don't care to do drugs and to drink and to cuss and to like, you know, they don't care. They don't have that sense of Christ in their life. And he was the only one who had Christ, so that's why he was the only one who had hope. All of the kids there were like, just, they didn't have the hope. And I don't want to say they were like living in depression, but they were just kids without hope, like whatever, like this is how it is, this is how our life is. And then that's when I was able to see, and I can't remember which of this that I'm about to say came first. So I believe what came first was I was able to see outside of the facility that there was this old man, and it was just him, and I think it was his daughter, his granddaughter, but it was just him and a female. And he was scared for her. So he gave her to the facility, and there was a woman doctor that was in charge, and she was the only woman in charge that I could see. And he gave his, I'm gonna say granddaughter, I'm not sure if it was a granddaughter or a regular daughter, but I'm gonna say granddaughter for the sake of this video, but he gave his granddaughter to the female doctor. And the old man said, he was like, I trust you because you're a Christian. Like, and I knew he meant like before all of this happened. So yeah, so it was like before all of the wars and stuff like that happened, I knew that's what he meant. He was like, I've known you before this happened, and I knew you were a Christian. And the female daughter was like, yeah, I'm a Christian. Yeah, like drop off your daughter, it's fine, or granddaughter. And he was really reluctant about it. Like, he was really sad. He didn't want to do it, but he was like, I trust you because you're a Christian. And the female doctor was like, yeah, this is a Christian facility, yeah. And then, like I said, I don't remember if this happened before this or after, but basically, I believe it happened after, because I believe it was the last thing I saw. The scene switched, and I was able to see all the male doctors and male nurses. And I want to say nurses, I'm pointing out nurses because the female doctor I saw, she was wearing like a doctor white coat, and I think she had blue on her, like actual, like under the doctor's coat. And then the nurses were all wearing red. And so I was able to see them in their, like, I guess like nurse's office or whatever their break room is, and they were all surrounded by a TV, and the TV was showing the kids, and I saw them laughing at them, and it was zooming in on the girl who was talking to the guy who was talking about in the beginning, and she was like, if you lose it, I'm gonna either kill herself or go on drugs. And the nurses were laughing at them, and so that's when I saw, like, they are not real Christians. They're acting like they're Christians. Everybody who was there thought that they were Christians, and so they're acting like they're Christians to get all the kids in there, and they're just making fun of them, putting them on certain drugs, testing them, seeing what drugs make them do what. And I knew that that's what they were doing. They were like just like using them as guinea pigs. And so that's pretty much the end of the dream. And I had another dream a while back. I can't remember when, but I believe it was either early this year of 2025 or sometime in 2024, late 2024, I believe. So basically, sister's earthly father to participate in a court battle between my mom and him to gain my sister. And I had a knowing that my mom won. Like, she already won. He just needed to show up so he can like sign papers or whatever, so that way they can get the ball rolling. So that's why I said, hurry up and go get him, because I was like, bro, like, we need to go. We don't have time to be beating around the bush. Like, let's go. And so I went to his mother's house, and she knew where he was, and he was in some sort of like basement, and he was doing witchcraft. So I went over to where there was like some sort of open slot that I could look down in the basement from, and I could talk to him too. And it was like this big, and I had to like get on the ground and I had to talk to him through it. And I was like, can you come on, because we need to get this, we need to get this roll going. And his mother, when she showed me the area, I could tell she didn't want me to be there, but it was like I had authority over her, and she didn't want to show me, but it's like she couldn't control herself really to show me or not. I mean, it's like you're the boss of somebody that's working for you, and you're like, I need you to show me your project that you've been working on. And the person that's working for you is like, I don't want to show it to you, but they have to show it to you or they'll get in trouble, right? So that's pretty much how it was. And so I went to the area, I saw him, and I saw him doing full-blown witchcraft. And I had a knowing that the area that he was at was supposed to be an area for Christians, that he had told people this is a Christian gathering, they were supposed to be doing Bible studies, and he would do witchcraft either before or after the group. I couldn't entirely remember, but it was before or after the group would meet up. And so that's another time that I saw that there would be fake Christians who know that they are straight up witches and warlocks. They know that they're worshiping the devil. Like, I understand that there are people now that claim to be Christian, but they aren't purposely trying to, trick people. Like, they genuinely think this is what a Christian is. So, like, the entire Catholicism belief, a lot of them believe that they're Christians, but they don't know better, right? But my dreams are showing me that these are people who are straight up satanic, straight up demons, straight up evil, and they're literally just saying this because they know that they can trick the Christians. It reminds me of a movie I saw. If you guys can remember, it's A Thief in the Night, and they have like a 4-part series of the movie. And yes, they do talk about a pre-trip, but there's a lot of like little things in it that is really thoughtful, and it really shakes your core, especially if you're not saved. So yeah, but it came out in like the 1972, and I believe it was the last part of when the bad guy is talking about the good dude, and I can't remember his name. I think it was Jim or something like that. I could be completely wrong. But basically the bad guy was like, he's predictable because he's a Christian. And so he had a knowing that if he sent in another person to act like a Christian, that the good guy would just be like, oh yeah, you're a Christian, I'm a Christian, let's just talk and let's, whatever. And yeah, in the beginning he didn't trust the person that came into his life, but it was still just like, like the bad guy knew, right? And even in the Bible, it talks about how these wicked people, they know that if they get the saints to sin, they could infiltrate them. So basically what I'm saying is, don't just assume, you're right with God, so God's gonna automatically just like cover you from the kingdom of darkness. Or don't just assume that the kingdom of darkness is just a big ball of stupid. And they don't understand from history that they can trick Christians into pretty much doing anything if that Christian does not have that discernment and is not praying the way that they should be. All right, so that little bit of leaven in a Christian's life can easily open you up to something. And then also not paying attention to the saints, because we have warned you guys multiple times about these facilities. Here's another dream I'm having. And then also fake Christians and things like that. The word of God says that we will know them by their fruits. And the thing is, you have to understand, you have to really discern, right? So let's say somebody is feeding the poor and they're taking care of them, and I think I've talked about this before. I think I made it in a short that I just posted. But basically, someone's feeding the poor, right? Are they feeding the poor in secret, just being genuinely kind, doing the best that they can and just keeping it a secret? Or are they like, oh, I fed the poor yesterday, guys, like super loud about it and bragging about it every chance they get, you know what I mean? And even then, you do have people who do feed the poor in secret, but look at the rest of their lifestyle. There's always going to be that little bit that just comes out when someone is not truly right with God. Okay, only the people who truly love the Lord, there shouldn't be anything in them that they're holding back, because the word of God and the blood of God, just the Spirit of God, He helps us. He completely heals us. If you're 100% healed, let's say you broke your leg and you're 100% healed, there is no fracture left, there's no proof that it doesn't even look like you broke your leg. Are you gonna still be limping? No. Okay, you are completely healed. And that is why it's important that we really know people by their fruit. Just really, pray for people, pray for discernment, and get help that way. Now, another thing I wanted to point out is that apparently my sister also had a dream showing how they will be gathering up the children. I've had a dream before about me saving children. So again, we know that the children will go through some sort of tribulation, and we just really need to, as a parent, and even if you're just somebody who's around children, a teacher, a babysitter, whatever, listen, if you are not teaching that child of God, then the world is teaching that child of the devil. Okay, so I wouldn't care if I was a caregiver of a child, and if I could lose my job, whatever, at least this kid is on the right path. Okay, because at the end of the day, I tell myself all the time, whatever job I do, that God is my boss. He is my boss. Okay, I don't care if I'm working for man or whatever. God is my boss. Okay, when I was talking about the girl and I was talking about how she was able to radiate her feelings, and I just realized that now as I'm recording this, that I believe that was a sort of superpower. So I believe it was my mom and maybe some other saint who saw that the kingdom of darkness will be testing children to try and get them powers, and her being able to radiate how she felt, you could feel it in the entire room. I'm watching this third person, even I could feel it. That's like a superpower. and they were really watching her. Like when the scene switched and I could see the nurses in their room and they were watching the kids, the camera was really on her. And so we've seen that before, that the kingdom of darkness would be trying to make a fake 144,000. So that's another thing, you know, fake Christians, fake 144,000. Just make sure that God is involved. All right, if Jesus is in the room, involved in someone's life, you will know. Okay, all right, so God bless you all. Have a nice one.